planning the road to success, there are a few steps to keep in mind. Identifying and solving the cause, facing and embracing change, goal setting, and being accountable. We'll talk about this today on Sustainable Success with Chris Salem. New and healthier habits lead to prosperity in all areas of your life and business. Now, here's your host, Chris Salem.
Well, welcome everybody. Hope everyone is having a great week. Here we are going into the last week of September. God, where is the time going? We are so excited. If you are new here to Sustainable Success, you found us here at the Voice America Business Channel. And if you have been following us, we've been around since May of 2017. Hard to believe we're going into now our 8th year, where we had first pioneered the Influencer Channel back with Voice America way back. But now here over at the Business Channel since April of last year. And again, we love our new home here and all the great new listeners that we are serving. And again, it's because of you, the listeners, that we are here committed to serve each and every week by bringing in subject matter experts to share their words of wisdom and insights to help elevate your level of influence and business to the next level. This also goes for organizations looking to do the same thing, looking for cutting edge content that's going to help them to do things that are going to better engage their own staff, employees, as well as create more valuable experiences for the customers they serve. You can definitely find that here at Sustainable Success. We highly encourage everyone, as you are now getting into Q4 of 2024, we are here to help you with your goals and developing the right systems and processes to fulfill them. If you have any questions or need any insights, feel free to reach out to the Sustainable Success team. We'd be happy to help you. And then also gearing up for 2025. We're right around that time where planning will start, and we encourage you to reach us here also at Sustainable Success Coaching and Consulting here at Chris at sustainablesuccess.net. That's Chris at sustainablesuccess.net. Well, we got a great show for you today. We are going to be talking about connectedness, the Connectedness Quotient, how leaders and teams can thrive together. So this is going to be for you leaders across multiple or all types of industries and the teams that you manage and lead. You're going to be learning the concept of connectedness through the Connectedness Quotient. And we are here with a subject matter expert that is going to be sharing a lot of insights. And I know him personally. Great guy, great wisdom, and has a lot of experience that he's going to be speaking from. We're going to be talking with Hylke Faber, and he inspires people to become taller on the inside through his genuine and caring, insight-provoking delivery. He works with leaders, teams, and organizations to develop connectiveness to their true values and realize their potential together by transforming entropy, energy not available for constructive use, into mindsets and behaviors that help them to be their best more consistently. He incorporates proven leading self, leading together, leading others, and leading system tools in all of his work. He almost became a monk and discovered peace, potential, joy, and love inside each of us that he endeavors to bring out in each of us where we work. His mission is helping people connect to their true selves, each other, and their purpose. Hylke is a seasoned leadership keynote speaker, award-winning author, executive and team coach, connectedness architect, and a podcast host. He has spoken at many Fortune 500 companies, leads Growth Leaders Network, the coaching consultancy, and also teaches at Arizona State University, my alma mater. That's where I'm a Sun Devil. He received his coaching certification from Newfield Network and was included in the Who's Who in America in 2023. Since 2006, Hylke has coached senior leaders and teams globally. Bloomberg recognized his book, that book that came out back in 2018 called Taming Your Crocodiles, as one of the best books on leadership. He writes regularly in Forbes and has taught the Leader as a Coach programs at Columbia Business School for many years. His next book, The Connectedness Quotient, will be published this year. And again, we're going to get more information on that book, some insights from it, because that's what we're going to be talking about. So you're going to get first dibs on that here by listening. And those, we highly encourage you to share that with all others that were not able to make it to the live show that can listen later. And without further ado, we welcome Hylke Faber to the show. Hylke, how are you doing today?
I'm great and grateful to be here with you. And what an introduction. I'm very humbled by what you said.
My pleasure. Well, you and I, we know each other, and and you've brought in so much value in this particular area of connectedness. And we live in some trying times right now. You think about the things that are going on in the world, and there's a lot of changes that have happened in the workplace. COVID, that whole experience with COVID played a big role in that as well. Can we talk a little bit of background, about why, what connectiveness is when it comes to leading teams, workplaces, and so on? And where do you see it now and where it's going?
So if you think about it, like when you walk into a room, Chris, and people are very connected with themselves, with each other, and their purpose, there's an ease in the room and ideas fly freely. It's warm, it's empathetic, difficult conversations just happen. And there's an aliveness. People are not phoning it in. It could be fiery, it could be kind, it could be honest. It's probably all of these things together in some way, and you never quite know. It's always fresh. It's very alive and very impactful. So that's, you could say, is the image I always have in mind as what I aspire to when I work with leaders and teams. And then we contrast that to where many of us are most of our days, or many of our days, and by no fault of our own, I would say. When I look around in the workplace and even in my own life, I wouldn't say that I lived like that most of my life, or when I see clients and teams, that I meet clients and teams at that place of high sense of fulfillment, high connection with each other, high purposefulness, which to me are the three components of CQ, connectedness quotient: connected with self, connected to other, and connected to purpose. I see that sort of wavering depending on where they are. So how came this about? 2019, 2020, I sat on this chair where I'm sitting today in Phoenix, Arizona. I travel a lot like you do, Chris, right? For keynotes, for team coachings and all stuff like that, culture development. And suddenly I'm sitting in this chair a lot because I'm not traveling. COVID's hit. And I'm almost 50 years old at the time. I'm 52 today. And I realize, I'm thinking like, what is it that I want to dedicate the next decades of my life to? And I work with leaders to help them become more wise, more compassionate, more purposeful, all these things. Like in all these hundreds and thousands of people as I've seen over the last 20 years, like, what is it? And that little word of connectedness keeps coming back and kept coming back. Like, yeah, that's what I think I want to, and I not only think, I know I need to give some energy to. I want to dedicate that to. Then I looked around myself, right? And the world in 2020 and the world in 2024, I don't say things have improved much. It's like almost like we've gone sideways or decline. I took a walk this morning. In Phoenix, it's almost 110 and it's the end of September. So we have global warming, right? We have wars. I'm from the Netherlands. My parents worry about what's happening in Ukraine. Gaza is happening. I don't need to enumerate all the bad news. We've got the elections coming up. People from both parties don't seem to talk to each other. Then I look at teams where all this is happening, where there's like almost a normalcy of staying in our shells. So I was like, what if we could just build a little bit more connectedness in ourselves, in our teams, in the world? What would that be? And so that's how this came about.
Wow. Fabulous. And I know, like I said, you made some really great points there. I mean, right now there's, a lot of this stuff going on, like, wars and the political, the election coming up here in the United States. But it's impacting everywhere right now. And so what do you feel like right now, like what would be the steps that leaders can start to take now with connectedness? And does it start with the individual, the leader itself, Hylke, or is it something that, again, they have to be the example of that? Love to hear from your insights on that.
In short, yes and yes. So in workshops, I always like to share with people about the oracle in Delphi in Greece, right? So thousands of years ago, people would walk with their big questions. You just talked about the big questions: elections, global warming, strife, team conflicts, whatever is going on, right? We walk around with those big questions. They walked around with their big questions, and they would walk to the oracle, just like maybe people today walk to this podcast or other places or books or like whatever, right? They'll go to workshops, talk to a friend, like scratching our heads. So these people walk for weeks sometimes because there's no transportation besides a mule and a cart and things like that. And I get to the oracle in Delphi, and people think I'm going to get an answer from this oracle, right? And guess what it says above the gate in Delphi? And it still is on the gate in Delphi. You can still read it. In Greek, and I'm a little bit of a language geek, it says gnotos autos, which is gnosis out, which means know yourself. These people traveled all this time to get face to face with this very simple, but to me, most important question of leadership in life, which is, who are you? And what is most important to you? So when I work with a leader, or when you're a leader, which to me is everyone, because everybody is a leader of their own life and of their team, whether the team is at work or family or sports or church or spiritual community or whatever it is, our neighborhood, we're always a leader of ourselves first. And the question I always ask myself, and where connectedness starts, is with ourselves. Like, who are you? What values are you going to bring to this? Are you going to, and am I going to give into my superficial thinking, which you and I both know, Chris, that isn't so pretty, right? I had a conflict with a colleague yesterday, right? And the gobbledygook of my mind just goes into like the three disconnectors of like, I'm obsessing about the problem, I'm judging the heck out of this person, and I'm trying to control the outcome, which is what our superficial mind does. Is that who I am? Is that who I aspire to be? Probably not. So for me to build connectedness, I have to make a choice to connect with myself and say, okay, what is truthful? What is loving, compassionate, empathetic? And what's of service here? And that slows down the thinking, and I start to see much more clearly. So it starts with me. So the first step for me of a leader, when I feel disconnected or when a leader feels disconnected, is asking myself, what can I do to get back into connection with myself? What is most important to me? And that is big work, daily big work.
Wow. That's so important. Like, and I love what you just said, because for me, when I had to step up to a leader, I had to practice what I preach. I had to be that example. And I wasn't connected to myself at all. I mean, I was so connected. I was so unconnected, if I could really be frank and honest there. And, it took some while, but what do you feel like from the organizations when you're now got this connectedness going on, like it starts at the leadership level, and what are some ways that like you've seen like that when you share with these leaders, how they can, spread that to others, and how does the team now buy into it, and how does that elevate itself, throughout the organization, and then perhaps how it spills out to the customers, clients they serve, and so on.
Yeah. So the refrain is, it always starts with me. We call this also the 1% principle. 1% principle, which means 99% may be out of my control of any situation, right?
Yeah.
And I can obsess and judge and try to control that. I can always come back to my 1%. So as a leader, I always focus on how will I do the most with my 1%, my part, right? So there may be a team conflict. How am I showing up? Honest, empathetic, purposeful? Am I having the conversations? So that's where it starts. As a leader, we start with that 1% principle, and we start to then go from that leading self to leading together. And how do we make that step?
Yeah.
Right? One way I found is helpful is to use deliberate language markers, like lighthouses. Like I just said, 1% principle, right? 1% principle becomes a language marker, and everybody in the organization starts to become aware of like, oh, the 1% principle means I'm not going to be out there judging or blaming or complaining about things. I'm going to figure out what I can do about that. That basically calls people back to themselves, right? So that's a language marker. We use language marker. Another language marker might be then get to the same side of the table. Like our ego mind always wants to think there's Chris and there's me, right? Or whoever the other person is. We are like afraid of ourselves and we're afraid of each other. Our ego brain is, right? Because we don't have a good history as humans taking care of each other. So we're like, I'm not quite sure. Think about when somebody comes to your door that you don't know. You're like, most people are like, oh, who's that? Right? Especially these days with the overload of spam and everybody tries to get each other in some way. Like, are you trying to get me? Get to the same side of the table. Like, jump over that false conclusion and see, what would it be like to be them? That's the second language marker. Lead together on the same side, get to the same side of the table. And then a third language marker, and there's many we could use, is to figure out how do you lead others. And that is very much about coaching. Not being a candy store as a leader, which disconnects people. Like, I'm going to give you all the solutions, but more be like a person that helps people to reconnect to their own power. So we work with leaders, I work with leaders to ask really good questions. Like, what is it that you aspire to? What would you like to see happen? What is your part in this? What have you not done yet? What are you afraid to say? Like all of those things. So in a nutshell, that's the journey we do. We start with ourselves, then we work on how do we lead together, and we learn some tools about that, language markers, and then we go to leading others and leading systems.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that. I know we got about a minute, to the break, but you just really, hit on so many key areas, and I know where we can go from here. We're going to look forward to everything you've shared so far and where we're going to take it. So everybody, if you're just joining us, there's some great information here. We're talking about the Connectedness Quotient, how leaders and teams thrive together with Hylke Faber. Again, highly encourage you to listen to the show in its entirety. We got more to come here, but we got to go to break, but we'll be right back in less than 2 minutes. We'll see you right back.
Voice America is on LinkedIn. Connect with us today. What is balance? It's being true to your purpose and not being distracted by shiny objects, surrounding yourself with family and loved ones, nurturing your spirituality, maintaining a healthy balance of emotional and physical wellness, and being present in the moment. Chris Salem creates awareness about unblocking mindset barriers for sales professionals, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and all types of people to have sustainable success at the next level. The solution evolves out of the problem or challenge. The issue is that many people and businesses manage the effect but do not address the root cause. You now have an opportunity to live your life and operate your business in the solution rather than the effect of your challenges. Schedule a time to chat about your goals and the person you desire to be by going to ChristopherSalem.com. We have group consulting calls, one-on-one, and other programs to assist you. It will be the best thing you do for yourself to see how sustainable success is possible for you in your life and business. Join us at the next level. Visit ChristopherSalem.com.
Have you become a member yet? Sign up now to become a member of Voice America. It's always free and easy. Plus, you get to take advantage of some great member benefits. Get unlimited access to millions of hours of on-demand content across all of our channels. Keep track of your favorite episodes, shows, and hosts in your own customizable library. Find out what shows you might be interested in based on your favorites. Plus, you get insider access with our newsletter. Membership gives you more. Sign up at voiceamerica.com and click register at the top right.
The business community's first choice in Internet Talk Radio. Voice America Business Network.
You are listening to Sustainable Success with Chris Salem. Call into our program today at 1-866-472-5790. Again, that's 1-866-472-5790. Or send an email to Chris at ChristopherSalem.com. Now, back to sustainable success.
Well, welcome anybody that's just joining us. We've been talking here about the connectedness quotient, how leaders and teams thrive together. I mean, this is some really great information. Again, we highly encourage you to listen to the show in its entirety here later today here at the Voice America Business Channel. You know, this is how you can learn how to lead yourself first, and then how to then lead others, and then expanding outward. And we just touched the surface in segment one, but now we're going to go a step deeper and really show, where Hylke is going to share with you how we can go a little bit deeper, what you can be doing right now in your control to really start now become this, that now that you can introduce this, to take your team to a whole new level. So Hylke, if you could talk a little bit about, how leaders, first, and then how they can now bring this to their workplace environments, industries they serve at a deeper level.
Yeah, so if you're listening, when you're listening, because everyone here is a leader, I ask you this question, which I always ask any leader that I work with. Tell me about a challenge you're facing right now, right? So it is not esoteric, it's not theoretical, it's not another management theory. Like, life is a perfect teacher in a way. It always showers us with fierce grace. Like, I'm walking this morning in 110 degrees Fahrenheit and it's fall, right? I have a conflict with my colleague. Those are my fierce grace challenges. So what are yours? Think about what those are. Think about what those are, and think about one, right? Because that's the one that is your opportunity for greater connectedness. Because what our mind wants to do first is wants to block out things that we don't want to engage with, the hard stuff. But by doing so, because we're much wiser than we give ourselves credit, we disconnect from reality. We're not intimate, as a Zen monk says, with the 10,000 things. We are like trying to shield ourselves. And in that way, we give our power away, because part of us is in conflict with ourselves, right? We're like, oh, no. And we make this up, and we put a nice facade on. So that's the first thing. What's the challenge? And the second question is, and this is deep self-honesty, right? This is not phoning it in, and you may not want to share this with your colleagues tomorrow, and maybe you do. It depends on how much safety you have and how much trust you have. Think about what are the ways which you typically disconnect yourself, from your values, from others, and from your purpose. Like, what are the things? And there's usually some flavor of obsessing, overthinking, worrying. Stuff to do with the relationship, judging ourselves and others, and something about trying to control. These are usually the flavor. There's something about fear in it. There's something about fight, flight, freeze in it. And there's probably something about an image you have about who you should be. That's a really important question. Who you should be, that keeps you from being fully engaged with this challenge, right? So, give you an example. It's 110 outside. One of the images that I have is I should be perfect and I should know the answer. That's an old image I have. And if I give into this thinking, I worry, I start to think like, what do I need to do? And I forget that I'm on this planet with 8 billion other people, and that it may not be just up to me, right? Or with my colleague, I may just go into, I should perfectly script the conversation before I even have the conversation. So that's the second question. What's the challenge? Second is, how do I disconnect? And you take this as far as you want, right? We don't stay there. The third question then is, who would you be without those disconnectors? Like, who would you be without that? Like, because all of this stuff is mind gobbledygook. Our mind is desperately often, because the primary function of our nervous system is survival. Yes. It's not learning. It's not growth. It's not love. It's not peace. It is freaking simple survival, right? So if I'm like giving into that gobbledygook, then I have some reality where I'm trying to not be as effective with this challenge. So I say, who would I be without this gobbledygook? Not making it wrong, more than, who would I be without all this thinking? And I might discover something like peace. I really ask you to sit with this question. It's not a discussion question. It's a contemplative question. What would you be without that? Peace, maybe more empathetic, maybe a bit more courageous, maybe a bit more curious. Maybe there's a sense of discovery about that. So when I walk in that weather, I'm like, what's there for me to do? Well, the first thing is to practice deep acceptance. Hylke is not going to change September 26, 2024. That's not my job. My job is somehow to see if I can make any contribution that September 26, 2034 might look a little different without becoming grandiose or the world center. So it's like, now I'm like putting myself, like, notice there's energy coming, like,
yeah,
like that. So that's the next question. Like, who would I be without that? And then the question that comes after that is, what do I commit? How do I reconnect myself? What are my values? How will I practice that? What do I stand for? Like that. So that's you could say is the very simple frame in a nutshell. What's your challenge? Don't shy away from it. Be honest. How do you disconnect yourself? What would it be like if you let go of that thinking? And then what values do you choose? How do you choose to connect to this?
I like the thing about, can you expand on the values? Because, a lot of people sometimes are probably, not even aware that they're even making decisions or doing these things from those values, or not even know what those values are. I know for me, like, I remember when I was trying to like please and enable people because I didn't get it from my father growing up. That was one of my limiting beliefs. I was operating from his values, not even realizing I was doing it, and not operating from my own values. When I got into my values, it was like, oh my God, it was so much different. Like I felt like a sense of peace that I've never had, like I never experienced before. Yeah.
So you touched on something I think very foundational, which is, what are my values?
Yeah.
And we are often conscious of them. And then if we're not conscious of them, we live on borrowed values.
Yeah, that's
we live somebody else's story, like your dad's story, who probably lived on his dad's story, and so on. Every family, every generation, I'm from the Netherlands, right? Our country motto is "Je m'entendrai," which means I will persist. Well, not that it was meant this way, but I interpreted that as I will control the heck out of things.
Yeah.
I grew up in a time where my dad took over his farm for all intents and purposes when he was 16 years old, right? And our dairy farm was not doing well. It was like on the brink of bankruptcy. It was something that people were laughing at. And so one of the things that he did really well in his life, he made this a tremendously successful business, so much so that he could retire at my age, like early 50s, right? He did amazing. Unintended belief that I got from that is, I've got to be perfect, right? So I walk into a conflict today, like we spent most of my first 20 years together. So it's 30 years later, this little belief that is not even mine, that's not even my dad's, that's like situational learning that happened, is shaping my decisions, how I relate to 110 Fahrenheit in Phoenix at the end of September, and how I relate to a conflict. So then the question is, how do I want to relate to this? And that is where we press another language marker, the pause button. Like we drop in, it's like, take a breath. It's like, what if we go beyond the superficial thinking and go into, what do I really value? What I really value, and this is not something you get from a book or even your company's values, or, because that's even borrowed values, that like your values. What are your values? What do you really value? And you will know what you really value by what you spend your time and attention on. And ask yourself, is that what I really value? So for me, I value truth. I value love, and I value service. Those are my anchors at the moment. So I ask you, what are yours? Like that's the question.
Yeah, I love that. And I know when you say that, Hylke, I remember when I found mine, because I grew up where I learned that transparency and vulnerability were a weakness as a man. And when that was completely untrue, I had to learn that transparency and vulnerability, as long as you had boundaries, of course, were a strength. And so I operate from complete transparency. I'm an open book. Not that I air my dirty laundry like that, but I'm an open book, as a leader. And I operate from honesty and integrity. Those are the three things that I operate from, whether if I'm a radio show host like I am now, when I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, a friend, a father, husband, it doesn't matter. Those values stand true. And does that mean I connect with everybody with the same values? No, I can connect with people like yourself that have a shared value, because the values you have are shared amongst mine. But there's a common thread there. Yeah.
Yes, and I notice even what happens, like you said, with your energy. Like when we connect to our values, I sit up taller. Like something in me is like, okay, it's almost like a sigh of relief, right? Because the survival mind tries to make sure that we become happy. I never met a person who doesn't want to be happy. We want to try to be happy. So we try to figure out how this external environment is going to be so that I am happy, which is Don Quixote, like fighting windmills, never going to happen. Or maybe like at little moments, Disneyland, or like when you meet your perfect mate, or if they even not exist, or I still have that. I want to go to the top of a mountain, have a perfect sunset. Like that's what I want. But that's very dependent and disconnects me from the present moment. Values connect me because they're always. So connectivity, connected quotient to me is connecting about what is always and already, whether it's on a mountaintop, on Disneyland, in a conference room, in a war zone, when it's 110 Fahrenheit, when somebody has a disagreement with you, whatever. Those are the values because you can rely on those. All the other stuff is not reliable.
That's true. Yeah. So true. And I guess when you talk about those values, like how important is it for your, obviously for yourself, but how does that relate to other people's values, the values of the organization, perhaps the values in your industry or people you serve? I guess, finding alignment in all those areas, I guess.
Yeah. So there's something really powerful that happens when we get together with others. Like you and I are getting together right now, Chris. There's something that happens that wouldn't happen if I just sat by myself in my office, or when you sat by yourself in your office, or like being with the listeners. We have a shared, like if you're listening, there's some kind of shared value. Otherwise you wouldn't be dialing into this or listening to this radio show, right? There's something about success and sustainability and aspiration, ambition that you value. And because when we're together with others who have similar values, just like an orchestra or a band, you start to have resonance. And that's a really pleasant feeling. It's like, oh, yeah, more of that. Like, oh, yeah, like that. And so we start to resonate. The good news is that when we go very deep, we notice that human values, when you go deep beyond the disconnecting stuff, are very universal. Like, tell me somebody who doesn't deep down value happiness or value honesty or value compassion. I don't care which party you vote on, or doesn't value service. Like everybody values those things in some way, or transparency or courage, no? And so by having a team reflect on their values, we come together. It's like, oh, yeah, this is what we're about. Now, from these values, we can start to operate and attack any disagreement, difficult accountability, commitment conversations we need to have. So they become like common guardrails. Now, this sounds like almost like a fairy tale, nice story, maybe to you, right? Sometimes we hit value differences. Mm-hmm. And, our mind tends to always be in a rush towards being on the same side of the table. Like we want to be in agreement. And so that we start pretending that we're in agreement when we're not, or we start to overpower others. That's the moment where we again go a little deeper and we start asking each other, so tell me more about that. What does that mean to you? And when we go a little deeper, let's say, a person might say, I value honesty. And the other person said, yes, but I value respect more, right? And then we can go a little deeper and say, well, you value respect. So why do you value respect? Well, because I really want to make sure I give heed to the other person. And then you can ask the other person, why do you value honesty? Well, because I really want to share my truth with the other, because that's a way of honoring them. So in a way, truth and respect, when you go a little deeper, are the same thing. Yeah. We want to actually honor each other. So the deeper value is we want to honor each other, right? And we all find different ways, depending on our conditioning and preferences and styles, to do that. So just having that conversation starts to give some oxygen in the room, right? So in a nutshell, because there's a lot we just said, have the conversations with each other. What do you really value? And stay open. Agreement and harmony will happen when it's ready, but not before.
Yeah, I like that, what you said, agreement and harmony. It's a byproduct. So, and like I said, you're going to agree, and knowing that harmony, it's never going to be perfect, right? It's not perfect 50-50. It could be, teeters like a seesaw, right?
Yeah. I often find in these conversations, that, and I have this a lot with my husband, that I'm invited into humility.
Yeah.
Like, maybe what I thought just a minute ago wasn't what it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Let me see what that is.
Yeah. No, it's powerful stuff that you had shared. This is like, and I hope everybody listening can relate this back to you. Do you know your values? And I know Hylke is going to get into more of this when we get into the next segment, because we're going to have to go to break here shortly. But think about that. Think about that and get honest with yourself. And you're going to learn how you can get in touch with Hylke here later, here in the next segment. So that way you can, if you want to, get to know him and really discuss your situation, this would be a great time. Great insights, Hylke. I know we got to go to break, but when we come right back, we got more to come here with the Connectedness Quotient, how leaders and teams thrive together, and we'll be right back after the break.
Follow Voice America at Facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts. What is balance? It's being true to your purpose and not being distracted by shiny objects, surrounding yourself with family and loved ones, nurturing your spirituality, maintaining healthy balance of emotional and physical wellness, and being present in the moment. Chris Salem creates awareness about unblocking mindset barriers for sales professionals, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and all types of people to have sustainable success at the next level. The solution evolves out of the problem or challenge. The issue is that many people and businesses manage the effect but do not address the root cause. You now have an opportunity to live your life and operate your business in the solution rather than the effect of your challenges. Schedule a time to chat about your goals and the person you desire to be by going to ChristopherSalem.com. We have group consulting calls, one-on-one, and other programs to assist you. It will be the best thing you do for yourself to see how sustainable success is possible for you in your life and business. Join us at the next level. Visit ChristopherSalem.com. Voice America programs are now available on your favorite connected device, including Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home. Through streams with Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, listening to your favorite show is as easy as saying the show name followed by the word podcast.
Hey, Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast.
If that doesn't work, try adding on TuneIn or on iHeartRadio or on Apple Podcasts.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are listening to Sustainable Success with Chris Salem. Call into our program today at 1-866-472-5790. Again, that's 1-866-472-5790. Or send an email to Chris at ChristopherSalem.com. Now, back to Sustainable Success.
Well, welcome back. We're here. If you're just joining us, we are talking about the Connectedness Quotient, how leaders and teams thrive together. We're here with Hylke Faber. Again, we highly encourage those that are just joining us to listen to this show in its entirety. Today's show is being brought to you today by our sponsor, Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to rekindle old relationships. Now, this is a membership program, meaning it takes all the noise out of social media. No more of those noisy notifications. You get to come in and generate genuine and authentic relationships with the people you choose to interact with in terms of content. And you could form as many groups as you like based upon the school you went to. Maybe it was a fraternity, a sorority. You could be a professional athlete that's transitioning into everyday life to connect with other former professional athletes, whatever that may be. And it also offers a wide array of different services not available to the general public. If you would like some more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. So, Hylke, you had shared some valuable information about this process of Connectedness Quotient and how we can step into that individually, as the leader, how we can now, lead others from it. How do we now implement that and really ingrain that at a team level? If you can kind of go into more into that realm of at the team level.
Yeah. You mentioned in the introduction that I almost was a monk, right? So my mind goes to this stuff automatically. Like I meditate and I do all these things that I love to do, and yet everybody has their own wiring, right? So to engage a team in this, and you may engage a team on this, and not everybody's waiting for, how I'm going to connect more with, why would I do this, right? So we always start with a team with what people care about. And if you're in a business setting or any organizational setting, the thing that the team tends to care about is their goal. Right. And especially if it pertains to themselves, like Maslow's level 1 survival, right? There's like you got to start there, right?
The survival mindset.
how will we survive/thrive? Like, what are our objectives? Like, what are they? And which ones, same with the coaching with the leader, which ones are most challenging? That's why we always start with it. So tell me more about, and you as a team leader, a team member, can have conversations about, what are our objectives? We need to be more innovative. We need to work better with the engineers or with the marketers. We need to become more customer centric, or we have this sales goal that we need to hit, or we need to shave costs out of the thing, or we need to find a way to increase efficiency, whatever it is, right? These are our like scorecard. Everybody has these in some way. We start there and say, what is most challenging? Okay. And then once we establish that, then we say, okay, for us to be successful with that, what do we need to shift in terms of our mindsets and behaviors? And now we get to connectedness. What are mindsets and behaviors that disconnect us from success and from each other and from ourselves? We kind of throw that in. And what are mindsets and behaviors that help us thrive, that connect us more, put us on a path towards that? What are those? But focus on mindsets and behaviors, because that helps people to indirectly connect to a different way of thinking. Like Einstein says, problems cannot be resolved from the same level of consciousness that created the problem.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So we got to figure out as a team, what is our thinking that keeps us from being as successful as we'd like to be? And specifically, what's the thinking that disconnects us from our success, from each other, and from ourselves, from our power, from our success, from our power in each other, and from our power in ourselves? And that may be something like, or we're in victim mindset. We are in silos. We are thinking too fast. We are just doing the motions. We are being arrogant. We are not innovative enough, etc. All of those things are disconnecting. They're usually some flavor of obsession, judgment, and control, usually. And then we go to, okay, what might be the twos? Well, from victim, we might say, well, maybe we take more ownership. That's called the 1% principle. From being arrogant, we say, well, maybe we want to become more, become more alert, become more curious. From silos, we might figure out a way to become more on the same side of the table. So we start to, I'm just giving you examples, right? It doesn't have to be those. It can be endless variety of things that where we start to map what are our from twos. Because we humans like to have goals. What we just did is we created a second order goal, a meta goal that gives us energy to start building this connectedness. And then throughout it, that after we've done that, after that question is done, we say, so lead self. What do we each individually want to change to contribute to that? Lead together. How will we support each other? For example, how will we hold each other accountable? How will we have difficult conversations when things don't go to the twos? Lead others. How will we coach each other? How will we coach other people in our team to get there? Lead system. What processes will we adjust to create greater connectedness? So that is like in a nutshell how we do it. But always start with where people are, right? Because if you just talk about, oh, let's increase like connectedness, like it's like going to the doctor who says you should exercise more. Yeah, right. But if the doctor says, you have better thinking, or you have a greater lifespan, or then you might have more motivation to go there. It's first creating the motivation.
This is powerful stuff what you shared. I love this stuff. And I know, you all of this stuff is going to be, you're writing this in this book. And I know I had alluded to, 2025, and I know it's coming out next year, but the book is pretty much almost wrapped up. I can't wait. What do you feel the mission of what you're doing with this next book, Hylke, with what you shared from all these key points? What are you aspiring that this book is going to do for business leaders overall?
That CQ, Connectedness Quotient, becomes as common language and orientation as IQ and EQ. That in a leader's vernacular, language, orientation, there will be a logical question in people's minds, like 10 years from now, everywhere in the world. It's not just going to be, how do I make this happen? Or how do I keep my people happy? Or how do I create engagement? It's also going to be, how do I create connectedness with myself, with each other, and with our purpose? And I would hope that message expands not only to business leaders, but to our world. Because I see so much polarization. And it's almost like the polarization is like a Netflix series. It's addictive. You want to see more polarization.
Yeah, you want to see more of it. Yeah, we just it's like putting them, it's like throwing it's like throwing, gas on the fire more. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just spread more of just stuff that's destroying things and wrecking things. Yeah, no,
yes.
Exactly.
So the mission of this book is to break the addiction to polarization and to instill a commitment, like a Mandela-like commitment, or whoever you admire, a commitment, maybe your grandmother, your grandfather, somebody, commitment to connect deeper and then lead and relate and serve from that place. That's the mission of the book.
Wow. Well, we're looking forward to when we get the official, we will make sure once we know when it's officially going to be out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and any other places where you can get books, that we will make sure that we put that out there for you and make sure all you, the listeners, will get first news and when that book will be released. Yeah. Will there also be an Audible version at some point, you feel?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Awesome. So I know, there's some people here that they have like to listen more than read. So, and I know one of my books it's been out now for 8 years now. It's been a while. We still get a lot of people love to listen to it rather than, read. But yes, great stuff. Anything else that you would like to share about this quotient, about the connectedness quotient? Anything that you feel that could, just again, help the listener on here, like now they've learned about how to do it for themselves, how to, share this with others, how to bring this to the team, and again, this is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. There's no flipping a switch, but any other kind of insights that will inspire people to kind of step away from this polarization and step into the connectedness, starting with themselves?
Well, it's by listening to podcasts like these. And I would say, as a list to the listener, and to myself, appreciate yourself and value yourself enough to take this step back at least 2 or 3 times a day. If you can, at least once an hour, take a step back. Like, what is really most important to me right now? Not from an ego narcissistic place, but what do I really value? That's the number one. And number 2 that I want to emphasize, to break the polarization and the dysfunction of disconnection, is simply the art of appreciation. When you feel irritated by somebody or you're in conflict, find at least 5 things about that other person that you appreciate about them. Maybe you do it with the other political candidate that you don't like. Find at least 5 things you appreciate about them. Because if you cannot see that, it is because your mind is caught up in some kind of survival game, because every single human being is worthy of appreciation. I don't care who they are. It's ours to do that work, to bring that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I want to say about that is I've written some other books, Taming Your Crocodiles, right? Taming Your Crocodiles is full with suggestions like the ones we've talked about today. It's the precursor to this next book. It's about, basically it asks a simple question also to get people to a sense of like self accountability. Who's talking right now? Who am I listening to? Is it my wise self, my owl, my connector, or is it my reptilian brain disconnecting crocodile? And when I'm not quite sure, it's probably my crocodile. So check out that book as well. You might find that helpful in supporting you in your journey of connecting more deeply what's most important to you.
Well, I encourage everybody listening and those listening, get your hand on that book. You can get that book now. It's been out, again, 2018. So you can definitely get that on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Or again, you can reach out. We're going to get some information out from Hylke and how you can contact him directly. So maybe perhaps you can get it from his website. Well, before we do that, Hylke, I want to thank you personally for taking the time on this hot fall day in Arizona. I know how it is. I've lived there and went to school at ASU, so I remember those days. Share with the audience, how can they best get in contact with you? What are you up to? Other than with the new book coming out soon, and then anything you'd like to provide the listeners here.
So find me on LinkedIn, Hylke Faber. There's 2, but you'll find me, Hylke Faber. Or look my website, hylkefaber.com, or my company website, growthleadersnetwork.com, or check Taming Your Crocodiles on Amazon, and you'll find me as well. Those are great things. Or check my articles on Forbes on connectedness. You can find lots of them there. And then lastly, I also host 2 podcasts, Rooted and Unwavering, and the Connected Teamwork podcast. And those are also great resources. I love giving keynotes. I love working with teams. I love executive coaching, or just having a chat with anybody to figure out how we connect more deeply. If that's of interest, let me know.
Well, thank you so much. And we highly encourage anybody out there, corporations that are seeking a quality keynote speaker, also someone to lead workshops in this particular area to really build that connectedness with teams. Hylke is the man. And again, reach out to him. Again, LinkedIn, and then Taming Your Crocodiles. And then all the other areas that he presented. We'll make sure that is in the show notes as well. And again, Hylke, we want to thank you again, not only for myself, but also the rest of the team here at Sustainable Success.
An honor to be with you. It's so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you. And listeners, we want to thank you each and every week joining us here at Sustainable Success. We are committed each and every week in bringing subject matter experts like Hylke in to share their words of insight and, most important, personal experience in these topic areas that can help move you and your business to the next level. Again, if you'd like to hear new content for a future show, feel free to reach out to us again at chris@sustainablesuccess.net. Otherwise, we want to wish everyone a great rest of your day and week, and we'll see you next Thursday here at 3 p.m. East Coast time, 12 noon Pacific. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your day and take care.
Thank you for tuning into Sustainable Success. Be sure to join Chris Salem and his guests every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific time and 3 p.m. Eastern time on the Voice America Business Channel. Have an incredible week.